My dad, Richard, died suddenly from a heart attack. That alone was shocking enough. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. We didn't get the call from a hospital. Not from a coworker. Not even from a friend. No. The person who called us, who broke the news, was his girlfriend. I remember standing there, phone pressed against my ear, heartbeat hammering as a woman's shaky voice said, I tried to help him. I called an ambulance, but it was too late. A stranger. A woman I had never heard of before. When I looked up, my mom, Linda, was staring at me, waiting for an explanation. I could barely get the words out. When I finally did, her face went blank. Not shock. Not even anger. Just nothing. Then, without a word, she grabbed her coat and walked out the door. We drove to the hospital in total silence. My hands were shaking the whole time. I didn't even know if I was sad yet. I was still trying to process it. My dad, who had been on one of his so-called work trips, was dead. And apparently not alone when it happened. When we arrived at the hospital, the doctors confirmed what we already knew. He was gone. And then, there she was. The woman. His mistress. She was standing by his hospital bed, sobbing. I remember thinking how wrong it looked. How out of place she was in our grief. She turned when she saw us, her face red and blotchy. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how else to tell you. Mom didn't say anything. Just stared at her, silent and still. Finally, she took a step forward. Who? She said, voice cold and steady. The hell are you? The woman flinched. I was with him for 2 years. 2 years. The words hit like a brick to the chest. I felt dizzy, like the whole world had just tilted on its axis. I turned to Mom, waiting for her to explode, but she didn't. She just laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. 2 years, she repeated, shaking her head. While he was married to me. While he had a family. The woman didn't even try to defend herself. Just stood there, looking small. I wanted to yell. To demand answers. But what was the point? My dad, the only person who could explain any of this, was gone. The funeral was a mess. People kept coming up to us, telling us how great he was. How much they admired him. I wanted to scream. Mom sat through the whole thing in still-cold silence. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. Didn't even flinch when people offered their condolences. Just sat there, gripping the edge of her seat, knuckles white. That night, though, I heard her. Through the thin walls of our house, I heard her sobbing. The kind of sobs that tear out of a person, raw and ugly. I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing. In the weeks that followed, Mom changed. At first, she just shut down. She barely spoke. Barely ate. I'd find her sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. Then, slowly, the silence turned to obsession. She tore through his emails. His phone. His bank statements. She wanted to know everything. She started coming to me with receipts, screenshots, evidence of his betrayal. Did you ever notice anything? She asked once, shoving his phone at me. Did he ever act weird around you? I just shook my head. Because the truth was? To me, my dad had been a good father. Yeah, he had his flaws. But he had been there for me. At every basketball game, every school event. We had traditions, late-night fast food runs, Sunday morning breakfast at our favorite diner. And now, all of it felt like a lie. But even worse than that? Mom needed me to hate him with her. And I just couldn't. I was angry, yes. But I also missed him. And that made me feel like shit. That was when Uncle Harry started coming around. My dad's younger brother. He wasn't around much before. But after Dad died, he started visiting more often. At first, it made sense. He was checking in on us, making sure we were okay. And I appreciated it. He was quiet, dependable, stable. The opposite of what our house had become. But then I started noticing things. Little things, at first. Like how Mom seemed lighter whenever he was around. How she actually laughed sometimes. Then, it got weird. They'd sit together on the porch, talking in hushed voices. Sometimes, I'd catch them standing too close in the kitchen. One night, I walked in and saw Mom's hand on his chest. It was quick. She pulled away the second she saw me. But I saw it. And I told myself I was imagining things. Until the night I saw them kiss. It was late. I had skipped practice because I wasn't feeling great. So I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet, except for murmured voices from the living room. I stepped closer, peering around the corner. And froze. Mom. Uncle Harry. On the couch. Kissing. Not just a peck. A real, deep, Hansen hair. Intimate kiss. My stomach dropped. My hands clenched into fists. I felt like I was going to be sick. I backed away so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. My heart was pounding, my chest tight. I ran. I don't even know where I went. Just wandered the streets, trying to erase what I had just seen. By the time I got back, I had made a decision. I wouldn't say anything. Not yet. Because maybe, this was temporary. Maybe Mom was just lost in her grief. Maybe she'd come to her senses. But I was wrong. So wrong. I tried to pretend I hadn't seen anything. Tried to convince myself that it wasn't real, that maybe, I had misread the situation. That the kiss was just a moment of weakness. A lapse in judgment. But I wasn't an idiot. And the longer I watched, the more obvious it became. They didn't stop. At first, they were subtle about it. Little things, Mom touching his arm when she laughed, Harry staying late even after Jessica had gone home. I'd catch them whispering in the kitchen, their heads too close together. And then, one morning, I came downstairs and saw him making coffee in Dad's old robe like he belonged there. That was when I knew. This wasn't just grief. This was something else. And I hated it. I started staying out later, picking up extra shifts, spending more time with friends, anything to avoid going home and seeing them together. Because every time I did, it felt like a fresh punch to the gut. Then came the night I couldn't ignore it anymore. We were having dinner, just the three of us, since Jessica was out. The whole time, they kept exchanging looks. That soft, lingering kind of glance that made my skin crawl. Mom laughed at everything Harry said, touched his arm like a teenager on a first date. I felt something snap. I dropped my fork. The clatter was loud in the quiet room. Mom looked up. Something wrong. I stared at her. Then at him. You don't even care, do you? I asked, voice steady. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? I gestured between them. This. You and him. I turned to Harry, my jaw tight. My dad's brother. Harry exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. Look. But I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to her. Mom sighed. I know it's weird for you, but weird. I let out a dry laugh. No, weird would be if you suddenly decided to start knitting or something. I shook my head, gripping the edge of the table. This is disgusting. Her expression darkened. Watch your mouth. I stared at her, feeling something twist inside me. Why? My voice was quieter now, but sharper. Because I'm not sitting here pretending like this is normal? Harry shifted uncomfortably. Listen, I get that this is hard. I snapped my gaze to him. Do you? He pressed his lips together, saying nothing. I turned back to Mom. Dad's only been gone 2 years, and you're already playing house with his brother? Do you even hear yourself? Her jaw tightened. You have no right to judge me. I let out a bitter laugh. No, of course not. Because that would mean facing what a shitty person you've become. Her expression cracked for just a second. But then, she straightened her shoulders and scoffed. I don't have to explain myself to you. No, I said, pushing back my chair. But you sure as hell should explain yourself to Dad. Then I walked out. And after that night, I stopped pretending. I avoided them completely. If they were in a room, I left. If they tried to talk to me, I ignored them. I didn't care if it made things awkward. I didn't care if it pissed them off. They had ruined everything. And then, the final betrayal. I had worked my ass off to get into college. Dad always told me there was a fund set aside for me. He made it clear, no matter what, that money would be there. It was one of the few things I had left of him. So when I sat Mom down to talk about it, I wasn't worried. I should have been. She hesitated when I brought it up. Shifted in her seat. Why do you need it right now? I frowned. Because tuition is due soon? She inhaled. Listen. I was thinking. I sat back. A horrible feeling crept up my spine. What did you do? She didn't answer right away. And that was answer enough. I clenched my jaw. Mom. She sighed, rubbing her temples. Jessica needed help. I froze. Jessica. She nodded. Harry's been struggling. He doesn't have the same financial stability we do, and I cut in. I laughed, shaking my head. Jesus, Mom, are you hearing yourself? She exhaled sharply. Jessica got into an amazing college. She worked so hard. Oh, and I didn't? I snapped. I didn't work hard enough to deserve the money that Dad saved for me? Her face hardened. That money was for your future, and I decided it. You decided, I repeated, my voice sharp. You decided to take my future and hand it to her. Mom sighed, already done with the conversation. You'll be fine. You can take out loans. Get a job. I stared at her, my pulse roaring in my ears. You stole from me. She scoffed. Don't be dramatic. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. You know what? Fuck this. Fuck you. Don't you dare speak to me like that, she snapped. I let out a cold laugh. Oh, now you're my mother? Now you care. I shook my head. You chose them. Over and over again, you chose them. And now? I'm choosing me. Then I turned and walked away. She didn't stop me. She didn't even call after me. And I think that hurt the most. I packed my bags that same night. I didn't wait. Didn't give her a chance to talk me out of it, or, more likely, make me feel like shit for even thinking about leaving. I just went upstairs, threw everything I could into a duffel bag, and walked out. She didn't stop me. I don't know if that made it better or worse. For the first couple of nights, I crashed at Ethan's place. He didn't ask too many questions. Just handed me a beer and muttered, "You staying for dinner, or what?" I think that's why I liked being around him. He didn't push. Didn't expect me to explain myself. Just let me be. After that, I found a tiny, shitty apartment near campus and started figuring out how to survive. I worked 2 jobs. Took out loans. Did everything I could to make ends meet. And the whole time, she didn't call. Not once. I thought about calling her. So many nights, I stared at my phone, hovering over her number, wanting to ask why, but I never did. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. The first few months were hell. I barely had enough money for food. Some nights, I sat in the dark because I couldn't afford the electric bill. I pulled all-nighters, not just to study, but because I was too stressed to sleep. And every time I thought, maybe I should just go back. I remembered walking into my kitchen and seeing him in my dad's robe. I remembered my mother laughing at his jokes while I sat there, choking down my disgust. I remembered sitting across from her, listening to her tell me that Jessica deserved my future more than I did. And that kept me going. Eventually, I graduated, got a decent job, found a better place to live. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was barely scraping by. And still, nothing from her. No calls. No messages. No congratulations. She had erased me. The only reason I even knew what was going on with her was because of Jessica's social media. She still followed me, though we never really talked. And every now and then, I'd see them. My mother. My uncle. Jessica. In one picture, Mom and Harry were sitting together at a restaurant, smiling like they hadn't completely torn my life apart. In another, Mom was helping Jessica move into her dorm. That one stung. I don't even know why I looked. Maybe I just wanted to remind myself why I had cut them off. Then 5 years later, she came back. The first text came out of nowhere. Call me. It's important. I stared at my phone for a long time before shoving it back into my pocket. Then the call started. I ignored them. She tried unknown numbers. I ignored those, too. Finally, after 2 weeks of this, my curiosity got the better of me. I answered. She picked up on the first ring. Oh, thank God. I didn't say anything. She sighed, voice shaking. I need your help. I leaned back in my chair, pressing my fingers against my temple. You need my help? She hesitated. I was in a car accident. I broke my leg. I can't work. And I waited. And I need money. I let out a slow, humorless laugh. Well, 5 years of silence, and that's what finally gets you to pick up the phone? You need money. She flinched. It's not like that. Really? I said flatly. Because it sure as hell sounds like that. She exhaled sharply. I know I haven't been the best mother. I barked out a laugh. Understatement of the fucking century. Her voice wavered. You don't have to be so cruel. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What exactly do you want from me, Mom? You're doing well now, she said, her tone shifting into something softer. Manipulative. I know you have a good job. Jessica told me. My blood went cold. Jessica told you? I cut in. You've been keeping tabs on me? Of course you have. My voice was eerily calm. But only when it benefits you, right? Sweetheart, please. Don't call me that. She sighed, frustration creeping into her tone. I just need some help until I get back on my feet. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my desk. Where's Harry? She hesitated. Where is Harry? She cleared her throat. He's helping as much as he can. Guess that's not enough, huh? She made a noise of frustration. Why are you being like this? I raised you. I sacrificed so much for you. No, I said coldly. You sacrificed me. Silence. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, I'm still your mother. I stared at the wall, then exhaled sharply and said, just as softly. Not anymore. Then I hung up. And for the first time in years, I felt free. She didn't stop. I thought she would. Thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally get the message. But I underestimated her. The calls kept coming. The texts, too. When I ignored them, she started leaving voicemails. Long, rambling ones that swung between desperate pleading and outright fury. 1 minute, she was sobbing. Please, just talk to me. I don't have anyone else. The next, she was snarling. You ungrateful little shit. After everything I did for you, this is how you repay me? I didn't respond. Then, she brought Harry and Jessica into it. Jessica texted first. Hey, I know things are complicated, but Mom's really struggling. Maybe just hear her out. Mom. Not your mom. Just Mom. I stared at the message for a while, then turned off my phone. A few days later, Harry called. I don't know why I picked up. Maybe part of me wanted to see what excuse he'd give for why this was suddenly my problem. He sighed the second I answered. I know you don't want to hear from me, but... Then don't call. I cut in. A pause. Then, she needs help. I let out a short laugh. And that's my problem because... She's your mother. My grip tightened around the phone. Yeah? And you're her husband. Maybe start acting like it. He hesitated. I've been helping. Not enough, apparently. His voice sharpened. You don't have to be a dick. I smirked. Little late for you to start lecturing me on morality, don't you think? He exhaled hard. I'm not trying to fight with you. I just thought you should know that she's in a bad place. The accident, it really set her back. And I cut him off. And she had no problem setting me back when she stole my college fund. Silence. She really thought she was doing the right thing, you know? I nearly laughed. Right? Because taking everything from her own son and giving it to your daughter was such a noble act. She made a choice, he admitted. And yeah, maybe it was the wrong one. But I cut in, voice flat. She didn't just make a choice. She made a choice to abandon me. More silence. I don't owe her anything, I said finally. Not after what she did to me. And then I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Because 2 weeks later, she showed up at my house. I came home from work and there she was, sitting on my front steps like she belonged there. At first, I didn't even recognize her. She looked smaller, thinner, like life had finally knocked her down a few pegs. She stood as soon as she saw me, brushing herself off. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come home. I stared at her. How the hell did you find me? She smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. You think I don't know my own son? I exhaled sharply. Whatever you're here for, no. Her expression flickered. Can we talk? No. She clenched her jaw. I came all this way. Not my problem. She inhaled deeply, then exhaled through her nose. I know you're angry. I laughed. Angry? Mom, angry was 5 years ago. I don't even give a shit anymore. Something in her face cracked at that. But she recovered quickly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick stack of papers. Medical bills. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This is why you're here. My voice was eerily calm. She hesitated. Then, softly, I have nothing left. I stared at her. At the woman who had once been my mother. Good, I said. Her eyes widened. What? You took everything from me, I said, voice steady. So yeah, good. Now you know how it feels. She sucked in a breath. You don't mean that. I tilted my head. Don't I? She took a step closer, voice trembling. Please, just this once. I exhaled slowly. And I needed my mother. Her face crumbled. For just 1 second, I almost caved. But then I thought about every night I spent hungry. Every freezing winter in my shitty apartment. Every single hour I worked just to survive while she played house with them. So I steeled myself. And I said, figure it out. Then I walked inside and locked the door. She banged on it for a while. She screamed, cried, called me names. But eventually, she left. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing at all. She didn't stop. I thought she would. Thought maybe, finally, she'd take the hint. That she'd disappear the way she did when I needed her. But I should have known better. The texts kept coming. The voicemails, too. Some were desperate. Please, just talk to me. I don't have anyone else. Some were venomous. You ungrateful little shit. After everything I did for you, this is how you repay me? I ignored them all. Then she did the one thing I never expected. She went to the family. For years, I had kept our dirty laundry private. I never told anyone about the stolen college fund. Never aired out the fact that she had replaced me with Harry and Jessica. But now, She was telling her version of the story to anyone who would listen, and people believed her. The messages started pouring in. Aunt Karen, who had never once called to check in on me, suddenly had a lot to say. Family is family. No matter what she did, she's still your mother. Uncle Mike, who never gave a shit about me when I was struggling, decided to weigh in. You'll regret this when she's gone. Even Jessica sent me a text. Look, I know things aren't perfect, but Mom's really in a bad place. Can you just talk to her? Mom. Not your mom. Just Mom. That said everything, didn't it? I almost laughed. Where was all this concern when I was struggling? Where were the guilt trips when she was throwing me away like I was nothing? Where were they when I was alone, starving in a freezing apartment, working myself to the bone just to survive? Fine. If my mother wanted to tell her version of events, then I'd tell mine. I wrote a public post. I laid it all out. I told them about the college fund, about how she stole my future and handed it to Jessica, about how she didn't just choose Harry. She erased me from her life entirely. I told them about the years of silence, how she never called, never reached out, not for my birthday, not for Christmas, not when I graduated. But now, when she needed something, I was suddenly her son again. I didn't hold back. I made sure everyone knew exactly who she was. Then I turned off my phone. When I turned it back on hours later, my inbox was flooded. Jessica had sent 10 messages, all variations of WTF. And why would you do that? Harry had called 3 times. And my mother? She left a voicemail that was just pure screaming. But I didn't regret it. Because the next time my phone rang, it was Aunt Karen. And this time, she wasn't defending my mother. I had no idea, she said quietly. She never told us any of that. No, of course she didn't. And one by one, the family started to see her for who she really was. People stopped defending her. Some even reached out to apologize. Harry and Jessica? They went silent. And my mother? She tried. She tried so hard to control the narrative. But she couldn't. Because the truth was out. The last message she ever sent me was short. I hope you're happy. You destroyed me. I stared at it for a long time. And then I deleted it. Because for the first time in my life, I was happy. And she had nothing to do with it.